On that note, I'd like to actually pay tribute to a man who personifies many things: intelligence, integrity, righteousness, tact, dashing good looks, and a great sense of humour. And since it's Stephen's wedding, I'm going to say a few words about him towards the end. For those who don't know, I've actually known Stephen for since we were 13 years of age. He stood out at the time because he was one of the smallest people in the school. Stood out is probably the wrong kind of phrase there, but he was actually known as Shorty at the time. And I can't really talk because you probably find it hard to believe I wasn't the hulking behemoth I am today. Also about the same height as Stephen. So between us we were like basically the midgets of the school. And you know, I remember sitting Stephen down one day. I had a bit of a pep talk with him, and I said, like, there's plenty of people who, you know, made a successful life, you know, just because they were small or whatever. And he said, you know, could you name one? So I said, I'll name 4. So if you'd like to direct your attention to the projector there, I'll bring you through the list I gave Stephen at the time. Tom Tom. Probably the smallest of all the small people. I couldn't find any Guinness Book of Records, but I believe he's the smallest man ever was born. Stephen liked Tom Tom because he was sure he was definitely taller than him. And the rumour had it that Tom was only as big as his father's thumb. That's obviously not his father holding him there. So I think the least said about that, the better. Number 2. Sorry, you might remember Gary Coleman. 4'8" and not a bother on him. Started that show, Different Strokes. He's famous for kind of saying, "What you talking about, Willis?" And that's more or less it. He's not doing a whole lot these days, but he had his moment in the sun. Next up, Papa Smurf. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking he looks massive up there, but a projector will do that to you. If you look carefully, you'll see he's actually standing on the top of a mushroom. There'll probably be a few of them at the dinner, so that'll give you a kind of a sense of scale there. But in fairness to Papa now, he was rather successful in that he was the leader of the Smurfs, but not a dictator, which is very important in this day and age. Last birthday, 542 years old. In event to find out some mad stuff when you go looking. And the last but not least on the list, Alf. I don't know if anyone remembers Alf. Oh, actually. I don't know how that happened there. I left Connor in charge of the projector for 5 minutes. There we go. Alf was that lovable little alien from the 80s. A lot of people say maybe he was successful because he was an alien, which is, I suppose, a fair point, but I think the fact that he wasn't the height of Niall Quinn probably went a long way towards him being lovable and famous and all that. So that was the list I gave Stephen. I could have gone on, and I could go on now, but I've got a lot to get to yet. Dinner's going cold and all that. So Stephen, anyway, eventually he did grow. not a whole lot, but he got there anyway, you know. And I don't like to brag around now, but I think that pep talk kind of spurred him on to, you know, try his best at school. You know, he went on to do junior cert. He got I hope you don't mind me saying so, Stephen, but 5 A's and 5 B's, you know. Not bad going. And he went on to have an equally good leaving cert, and he went on to college, and he went on then to meet Sonia, and that's why we're here today. That's what the relevance of all that was just there. So when he did go to college, obviously it was time for himself and himself to part ways to some extent. So I went down to Waterford to study computers, and Stephen went on to UCD to study science. Now I haven't the foggiest notion what that graph means there. I know we've got 2, maybe 3 dozen scientists amongst us here now who could probably explain that to you and tell you all about it, but I'm going to spare you that. So I found out when Stephen took up science, it says like I take a bit of an interest and see, you know, what it's all about. And I found out basically there's 6 things involved in that you need to have in order to be a scientist. Oh no! I was Stephen there now and took me a day in the lab. Taking a bit of time out just to pose for the camera. Well, the first of the 6 things, would you believe, is goggles. I think it's fair to say, I can't speak for Sonia, but I think if you met Sonia when he was wearing those goggles, I don't think it'd be a first date, I don't think it'd be a second date, and I don't think it'd be a wedding. But safety is first in the lab. You have to be safe, you know, keep your eyes clean and all that. So the less of them, the better. Rubber gloves. As I found out, rubber gloves, not just airport staff who wear them. Scientists wear them too, although thankfully for a very different reason. Next up is the whiteboard. Whiteboard, that's a bit of a wild card. There's only one rule with the whiteboard: you have to have lab tasks as a heading. And everything under that heading has to be completely incomprehensible to a mere mortal. Next up, the white coat. Probably the most recognisable thing about scientists, you know. I met a couple of Stephen's friends at a stag there a couple of weeks ago, and I was gutted that not one of them was wearing a white coat. I later found out that they wear them all the time. It's just Saturday is when the dry cleaners is open and they leave them in there to get them back on the Sunday evening. So Stephen actually wanted to wear white for the wedding. But I had to go into best man overdrive and say, no way Stephen, we're not making our Westlife out of this. Next up is the hair. Thankfully, Stephen did get the haircut for the wedding. But you can see there, what a baronet shop. If you're going to be a scientist, you have to go with like Einstein. You know, you have to have an absolute lunatic of a haircut, and people will cross the road to get away from you. And I did say there were 6 things. So number 6, I don't know if you can guess this picture. Apparatus. Now, when I was in school, things were simple enough. You have maybe a Bunsen burner or a thermometer or something like that, and that'll do like. But usually you do things different. It has to be a big gigantic thing that you expect to find in your hot press. Stephen will probably tell you that's an autocorrelation magnifier or something like that. Whatever that means. But even the man in the background there, he doesn't know what Stephen's at now. He was his lab buddy for about 6 or 7 years. But it's bad to spend too much time in the lab, obviously, and when Stephen went to college, lucky enough, he met a few new friends. Of course, when you go to college first, you don't know, you kind of get in with maybe different people and you realise they're not for you after a few months. Stephen went through quite a few mates originally. I met this guy once. Seemed like a nice fella, a little bit too vain for my liking. Always looking in the mirror and talking about his car, which apparently could talk or something. Fair enough, you know, the half this, the half that, Stephen would say when you bring me up and he'd be talking to this lad, and I say, alright, yeah, whatever. Next lad.
Jesus.
Nice fella too. You know, Stephen used to have a lot of pyjama parties. That stopped all of a sudden. I don't know why. I think Stephen liked him because he called him Prince Stephen the whole time, so that was nice. Another nice fella here. Very sorry fella. I met this man 2 or 3 times. Bit anti-American, which is alright to some extent, but you know, I says no, you're going a bit overboard, you know, we're talking about taking over the world, you know. You're living in a cave, for God's sake, you know. Stephen, as you can see, grew a big beard there at the time. I think I was the only one who found it inspirational, but there you go. But thankfully, eventually he did end up now hanging out with a nice group of fellas. Found out fellas, at that stage I thought he's getting his life in order, like, you know, he's after going, you know, to a more or less normal height. He's got a few good friends there, not bothering them, and all he needs now is the love of a good woman. So that's where Sonia came into the picture. Oh, wait. Actually, that wasn't meant to happen, but there we go. There she is now. I kind of thought you might say that. Oh, there we go. Psychic abilities down in Calvin. But I remember Stephen rang me up one day and he said he was going on a date with a girl from college. I says, great stuff, hope it goes well for you, you know, we're going to the cinema. And he sounded a bit nervous on the phone now, he didn't say that, but I thought, like, you know, as usual, I should give him a bit of advice. So he says, Stephen, look, it's only the cinema, you know, it's one date, chillax, you know, it's grand. No one says you have to marry the girl. I'm glad Stephen was never any good at taking my advice. Because from what I know of Sonia, I know she's going to make Stephen a very good wife. And I'm delighted with the two of them. And I know I've known Stephen now for I suppose about 15 years. He's been a very good friend. He's truthful, he's loyal, he's considerate, he's a good listener. Kind of guy who'd do that for you. He even wrote this part of the speech. Thank you for that, Stephen. And I'm just going to pass you over to Steve for a few minutes. He's got a few words to say, a few apologies to make, obviously. And we'll have a final post after that, so that's about it.